KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
From theft to murder, crime was up in Washington state last year. That's across all crime categories, according to a report from Washington sheriffs and police chiefs. Spokane County Sheriff John Knowles wasn't surprised by the numbers.
If you don't do anything to disrupt poor behavior, hold someone accountable for bad behavior, you can just expect more of that.
He points to the state legislature for the rise in reported crime. Let's look at property crime, which saw one of the largest bumps, up nearly 10% from the year before. That includes things like theft, robbery, and car theft. In Spokane County, there were 2,768 thefts in 2022 and 917 stolen cars. That rose from 669 in 2021.
And that's just what's being reported. I know there are citizens who have expressed to me and other people that they are so frustrated with the lack of accountability that they don't call and report.
Knowles blames two major policy changes: a reduction in Washington's prison population and the legislature lowering minimum sentences for many crimes. He says people with multiple repeat felonies are spending less than a year in jail oftentimes and may never make it to prison.
We now have a jail where literally every time we book somebody in, somebody has to come out the door on the other side. Full on 14% of the people we book never see the inside of a jail cell at the jail they're released before they ever spend a day in jail.
KREM 2 News reached out to Governor Inslee's office. His press secretary says the state's statutory penalties have never incentivized anyone to reoffend, pointing to a DOJ study saying reoffenses are often due to lack of resources and other economic factors. He says crime has increased nationally beginning with the pandemic, but Washington is working to address it. On the local level, Sheriff Knowles says Spokane County needs more jail space and an alternative to jail for substance use treatment.
But we have to have something waiting in the wings if they don't take advantage of it that's worse than going to the treatment. And we don't have that right now.
Shannon Mounty, KREM 2 News.
The Airway Heights Fire Department says it's outgrown the one and only station it's used for service for the last 55 years. So if you live in Airway Heights, the department wants you to pass a bond that could help them move into and renovate this building behind me.
On the outside, you might not see much wrong with the Airway Heights Fire Station. But take a look inside, and Fire Chief Mitch Metzger tells a different story.
It is literally a maintenance nightmare.
This station has served the department since 1968. In that time, the city says it's been renovated 10 times. But Metzger says some things are beyond basic renovations.
This is the only place to do decon for our firefighters, to get the bloodborne pathogens off of them, to get any of the carcinogens off of them. And then they walk right back out into the garage where all the carcinogens are still here from everything that we just had from the last fire.
He says the building isn't big enough to safely house equipment and trucks and doesn't have air conditioning in its sleeping quarters.
Not ideal by any means.
But this could all change if Airway Heights voters pass a bond in the August primary election. The bond would use taxpayer money to help the fire department move into a new station.
The community has told us over and over again that public safety is the most important thing in the community, and so we're now asking them to invest in that public safety.
Metzger says the department is still able to respond when needed from its current station.
Regional Mutual Aid 3, Rush Fire.
But with an extra $9.25 a month from the average Airway Heights homeowner, Metzger says service could better meet the needs of a growing community.
That crash happened Friday when a van loaded with members of Spokane's Lighthouse Pentecostal Church rolled near the Kansas-Colorado border. We have learned, of course, 3 women from the same family were killed and several others, including children, were hurt. Kansas Highway Patrol says 3 women were killed when a church van rolled on Highway 40 Friday. A crash report says Darlene Manene was driving and overcorrected after going off the road. The van was carrying a group from Spokane's Lighthouse Church on their way to Tulsa, Oklahoma for a Bible quiz competition. The driver and pastor's wife, Darlene, was killed. Their unborn child also didn't survive. Pastor Menene's mother-in-law and sister were also killed. Pastor Matthias is still in a Denver ICU, says family friend and fellow pastor James Parker.
3 young men in the hospital along with Pastor Menene that we are praying for and praying for a speedy recovery. They're all doing much better and progressing, but still have a long way to go. So they're still looking at a lengthy recovery process for at least 4 individuals.
There were 10 kids in the van. Parker says the children who aren't in the hospital are expected to come home Monday. Parker grew up with the Menenes in LeGrand.
Left their homes and their jobs and their families here in LeGrand and moved to Spokane to start a church.
Parker says Spokane's lighthouse was a beacon for the city's Marshallese population, as the Menenes were also from the Marshall Islands. Now their own church community is rallying around them, praying for healing.
They love people. They're a great family, a giving family, and you can't find better people than them.
Parker's fundraiser has now raised more than $63,000. He tells me that money will be used for the ongoing medical expenses, as well as to bring the bodies of those 3 women home to Spokane and for their funerals. In Spokane, Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
The governor's office says that it wants oil companies to expose their accounting and, if it shows price gouging, to potentially issue penalties. Meanwhile, Republicans say that those climate policies are costing consumers and they want to see changes. Standing in front of Highline School District's electric buses, Governor Jay Inslee doubled down on the climate policies he's rolled out and took fresh, direct aim at oil companies.
Enormous flood events, melting of the ice sheets. Our nation, our state is under attack by the pollution that comes from the oil and gas industry. And Washington State will not allow that.
Thursday, Governor Inslee announced legislation planned to be introduced by Democrats in January that would require oil companies to open up their books and the potential for a commission that could issue financial penalties, spotlighting a healthcare worker who says climate change is disproportionately harming some communities.
Whether it's respiratory, cardiac, cancers, maternal and infants are impacted, mental health, and the list goes on.
Republican State Senator Jeff Wilson says he too wants to see a cleaner environment, but he doesn't believe new costs to businesses are the way to do it.
While others may want to accuse oil companies of price gouging, I'll fire back and say gouging has been occurring in the last few years' states' budgets. It seems the state has had an enormous appetite to collect more money from somebody and then spend away with our biennial budgets.
The Western States Petroleum Association released a statement saying, quote, WSPA feels that well-designed carbon programs can be important to reducing carbon emissions and that we need to make sure they don't have an undue impact to consumers or the economy.
The governor's office responded that all revenue from the Climate Commitment Act goes back into communities, and it would like to see the industry speak up on reducing emissions and addressing climate disasters.
Yeah, every year at Underhill Park, the Spokane Eastside Reunion Association hosts a basketball camp. Their goal every year is simple. It's a goal to inspire the kids that live here in this community.
Who's doing high feet for candy?
Let's go! When school's out for the summer,
right foot.
Education steps up in different forms. The lessons out here focus on discipline, hard work, friendship, and, of course,
respect. 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 I should see your forehead. You should see my face.
Jessra Johnson runs this classroom with 50 young students eager to learn every single day.
I love basketball.
For 6 weeks, Jessra and her coaching staff are coming up with new ideas to keep their kids engaged. Drills, games, challenges.
Real basketball skills. Learn what it takes to be on a team, and it's not really a hand out, it's a hand up.
Valuable knowledge coming from someone who once shared similar dreams.
I committed to a D1 college in middle school. I went to the University of Missouri, and then after that, I played professional in Lima, Peru.
A blueprint that's earned the respect from the athletes she's coaching.
It's been like really fun working with her. Like the challenges we do each morning, the warm-ups, and maybe even like running every once in a while. That's a great wake-up call.
14-year-old Kamari Thurman decided this summer he would learn more about the sport he's been interested in for some while now.
I've gotten better in skills that I didn't know I had.
A message that echoes across the camp.
I've got better at crossovers, behind the back, stuff like that.
Witnessing this growth is just one of the perks for those who answer the call to teach.
Yeah, coaches play tomorrow, not today.
And like any good teacher, Jessera can tell you there's always room to learn from the students.
And it's more about being friends. You get kids respect. Discipline goes so far, but friendship goes farther.
It's that lesson of friendship the second-year camp head coach is hoping her players take with them as they move forward.
We run around the coaches, and sometimes we get high fives.
Yeah, so the basketball camp will be coming to an end at the end of July, but to celebrate all of these kids' accomplishments throughout the summer, the Spokane Eastside Reunion Association is also hosting a community celebration here at Underhill Park. There's going to be free games, free prizes, free food, and lots of fun activities and camaraderie. Reporting in the East Central neighborhood of Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Well, it is an exciting week here at Avista Stadium as 2 Colorado Rockies players will begin rehab assignments with the Spokane Indians on their path back to the major leagues. Second baseman Brendan Rogers was a Gold Glover last year for the first time in his career, but had shoulder surgery in spring training. He was not expected to return this season, but Rogers currently feels like he's almost back to 100%.
I would say I'm about 95%, right now. There's a few things that you can't really practice, which, are diving and, sliding into the bases and stuff, but I won't be doing much head first sliding at all. A lot of feet first and just trying to be smart, trying to stay on my feet, trying to stay on the field and, help the team win.
Relief pitcher Tyler Kinley is also in Spokane after rehabbing a torn flexor, which has kept him out for over a year. It was a tough blow for Kinley, who was in the midst of his best season in pro ball when he was hurt. He is glad rehab is over and he can return to competition.
There's never really a good time to get injured. I think fortunately for me last year, I was in a good spot when I did get injured. So I think that helped mentally during the recovery process. I didn't have to worry about, maybe things I could have done better last year and whatnot. Like I knew I ended in a good spot. Did all I could to stay healthy. But now to get back, it's been, a quick 13 months. Sure didn't seem quick in the very beginning, but super excited. It's been a lot of work with a lot of people helping along the way, so super excited to get back.
For now, reporting out of Avista Stadium, Andrew Quinn, KREM 2 Sports.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.